So Gamescom happened recently and brought with it a lot of disappointment. I already did a video on how Stalker 2 isn't looking so good, link for that will be in the description below, but today I wanted to talk about something far more egregious. Delta Force and Command & Conquer were both some of my most beloved franchises of all time, and now they've come back from the dead, for the worse. For the second time in CNC's case, and for Delta Force, it's been well over a decade. The thing both of these games have in common is that they're both arriving in a format no one asked for. For those of you out of the loop, Command & Conquer was one of the most popular RTS games of all time during the mid-90s and early 2000s. Millions of people bought and played these games, and in fact, to my recollection, Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun was actually the first video game I ever played. The franchise came to an anticlimactic end when EA, the mother of the vast majority of predatory business practices we see in gaming today, decided that it would be a good idea to use a shitty port of a botched mobile game intended only for Asian markets as the last entry in a series that was once known for its massive battles and base-building mechanics that would now be completely removed and replaced with fast-paced gameplay, a cartoony art style, and absurdly low unit caps. That, of course, is a gross oversimplification of what was wrong with the game that shall not be named, but if you want a more in-depth look, watch this video after you're done with this one. Then you have the Delta Force franchise, which used to be known for slow-paced tactical gameplay that did change a bit as the franchise went on, and it was controversial to say the least. At the time, Call of Duty was brand new and seeing massive success with its grounded but easily accessible gameplay and settings, and Delta Force wanted to emulate that. Enter Delta Force Black Hawk Down. Now I have to be honest here and say that I'm going to be biased. My first FPS ever so happens to be the original Delta Force, but the first FPS I could ever understand and was actually decent at for more than a few minutes was Delta Force Black Hawk Down. I love that game to this day. Sure, it has a lot of problems like game-breaking bugs around scripting, not allowing you to progress through certain levels if you do things the wrong way, among others, but I still like the game despite its flaws. I even have the original manual, which is like a frickin' book. Remember when those things were a thing? Awesome. But nostalgia aside, I can see why some people don't like the game and really why Delta Force began to decline after it releasing title after title with seriously dated visuals and mechanics. It's no wonder this franchise fell out of favor with the wider gaming community. Well now, after over a decade of not receiving a proper release for either franchise, they're finally bringing back both Delta Force and Command & Conquer. CNC gets a mobile game. And Delta Force gets a free-to-play multiplayer COD clone with an identity crisis. Let me explain. So I'm going to tackle Command & Conquer first, as I have less to say overall about it other than, come on EA, this is pathetic. You tried this with CNC Rivals back in 2018 and it flopped hard. Why EA feels the need to try again after what is ultimately a pretty short time frame is beyond me. I mean, at this point, can we even consider the modern Command & Conquer franchise to even be predominantly an RTS series when only one of the 3 recent games released has actually been an RTS, with the others both being mobile games? I would argue that Command & Conquer has lost its sense of identity more than any other franchise I talk about on this channel, and considering I spend a lot of my videos talking about Halo, that's pretty sad. I mean, the fans have been asking for a second remaster collection for both Tiberian Sun and Red Alert 2 ever since we got the first one a couple of years ago, and our requests seem to have fallen on deaf ears time and time again, with EA instead offering us another mobile game that nobody wants in the form of Command & Conquer Legions that just got revealed at Gamescom a week ago. And this is just a letdown to relegate a genre-defining series to mobile games. If this isn't selling out, then I don't know what is. EA has gone out of their way to completely bastardize every franchise under their belt, be it Sims, Madden, Battlefield, Spore, which, side note, if you buy Spore on Steam, good luck accessing the online features because EA won't give you access to a CD key which is required to share creations on the game. They did this all because of Steam's refund policy was leading a few bad actors buying the game, using that CD key, and then refunding it on Steam, still granting them a free game on Origin due to the way those keys work. So EA just removed them entirely for Steam users. Seems like a foolish thing to do worrying about DRM for a game that's nearly a decade and a half old, meanwhile other newer titles that could generate far more revenue for the company are almost dying on launch. Looking at you, Battlefield 2042. Now, I feel it's important to note that there is technically a way to get a CD key, but it involves contacting EA customer support, and if you've ever done that, you know you're better off going to the DMV on a Monday during closing time. Even if you do get in touch with EA support, there's still a good chance you won't get a CD key, especially if the game got gifted to you on Steam by a friend. Now, EA isn't the first company to do something like this either. I know Activision does it with their old Call of Duty games too, but that's another topic for another video. Now, back on topic. Shifting gears a bit and drawing our attention to the new Delta Force called Hawk Ops. Initially, the trailer looks pretty damn cool. It seems like they're going back to the days of the aforementioned Black Hawk Down from the early 2000s, and as a massive fan of that game myself, initially this looked like a good thing until about halfway through the trailer, the time period the game takes place in changes for some reason, from the early 90s to the mid-2030s. Here we go again. You know, I really thought that this whole near-future aesthetic for shooting games was something that died in the late 2010s. I mean, few liked it in Advanced Warfare, fewer liked it in Infinite Warfare, and like I said earlier, 2042 wasn't received particularly well, and while that is a multifaceted issue, I think the theme is definitely part of it. But all things aside, I really wonder why they're changing Delta Force from this grounded, real-life conflict-inspired, soft simulator to a blatant COD clone, complete with neon-colored motion-tracking bows to equipment pickups ripped straight out of Halo. It just once again seems like yet another game committing to drastic changes to its core. Like, this isn't the earlier mentioned changes to appeal to a more casual audience, this is just straight up changing it to a different type of game altogether in tone and gameplay. The even bigger problem here is that Hawk Ops isn't even fully committing, as it's sort of half in, half out when it comes to the time period and vibe that the game is situated in. I know this question has been asked before, but why does it seem like almost every modern franchise, be it cinema, games, or TV, has to be remade to be dumbed down to the absolute lowest common denominator? Marvel movies have become overly cliche action flicks with very little in the way of actual plot. TV seems to have become hyper woke and cater to the easily offended, while games are a mix of that, bright colors and quick gameplay that only caters to children and 16-year-olds who never leave their mother's basement. I mean, just look at the state of gaming recently. Sure, there are some good games out there. I've heard the new Baldur's Gate 3 is pretty good, though I have yet to play it myself, but by and large, so many games that come out today just suck in one way or another. But even moreover, so many of these remakes and reboots are the biggest offenders. It's like the companies that own the rights to the intellectual properties do everything in their power to capitalize on the nostalgic brand of what made the games great, without actually putting in any of the work or effort required to make these new takes on nostalgia decent. The last thing I want to point out about Delta Force specifically is that it's now owned by Tencent, which, if you don't know, is a Chinese megacorporation that is one of, if not the biggest investors in gaming today. They also have direct links to the Chinese Communist Party, an organization well known for massive human rights violations. Yikes. But I'm going to leave that right there. So with that, I think I'm definitely going to sit these two out. Command & Conquer Legions is a pathetic second attempt at capitalizing off of a long-dead nostalgia for a series most gamers today don't even know existed. And Delta Force Hawk Ops seems like China's attempt at some kind of quick profit at best, or maybe some sort of psyop at worst, and I say that half-jokingly, but that's another discussion for another day. All that said, I just wish that these companies would stop pumping out the same recycled crap for the sake of a quick buck. Either remake something in a genuinely good way, or make something new that's entertaining. Stop ruining old franchises. Let them rest if you won't do it right. It really is sickening to see all the franchises you knew and loved growing up turn to shit in the name of making a quick profit. But I guess that's just the industry today. Gaming has become far too corporatized, and I fear we won't see a return to form for a very long time, if ever. Oh well. At least there are still a plethora of old games to play, as well as the occasional masterpiece. Check out my video on Chernobylite if you want to see something worth playing. But that's going to be it for me. As always, thank you for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed, have a great day, and stay safe. Goodbye.